This is Erin Schoenberg, and I am with the Center for Rural Affairs. Thanks for joining us today. This is part 1 of 3 of our online field day featuring beginning producers overcoming challenges. Today, for part 1, we will hear from Hannah Esch of Oak Barn Beef. For part 2, which will be a separate file you can access, we will hear from Jay Wolf of Wolf Farms Produce. And then please join us online for a live panel discussion with both Hannah and Jay, and that'll be Monday, June 8th. So please see all the details for this event on our website, which is cfra.org. You can also reach out to me. Again, I'm Erin Schoenberg, and my email address is erins@cfra.org. Welcome. Thanks so much for spending a little bit of time with us today, hearing from Hannah of Oak Barn Beef. This will last about 15 minutes, and you'll be able to see some photos of her operation as well. So we want to thank Hannah for joining us. This was pre-recorded. If you want more details about Hannah and her business, again, all those details will be found online. So thanks again, and we will turn this over to Hannah.
Oak Barn Beef ships my family farm's premium beef directly to consumers across the United States. I started this business about 2 years ago when I was a sophomore in college. I had the opportunity of being the Nebraska Beef Ambassador. So I was traveling across the state talking to basically concerned consumers about cattle raising practices and educating youth about where beef comes from. And just through that experience, I really realized the disconnect between producers and consumers. And I thought, what better way to fill that gap and put a face to the farmer than selling our product directly to consumers? And so that's kind of how it started. Cattle raising has been in my family for over 5 generations. So I'm a 5th generation rancher, which wear that title with pride. There's been a huge increase in our sales, and we're actually sold out of beef right now. And 2 months ago, we thought we were pretty stocked up. So it's changed a lot. But I think a lot of customers who had been watching our business but not purchased yet, whereas decided it was time to pull the trigger during all of this. So whether that's because they wanted to stock up or kind of just had like the time and to cook at home and really enjoy the product too. We've seen a lot of new customers and actually like first-time purchasers, a lot of those. I think they may have been on our email list and following our story, but just hadn't purchased yet. But that has been interesting to see those customers come in and some of the ones who I've talked to before, but they haven't purchased. So it's exciting for them to try our product too. A lot of my new customers are also coming from Instagram. So people who have followed us for this past 2 years and kind of seen our journey. And it's so fun to hear what they saw me just starting this business, and now they're purchasing our meat, which is a huge compliment to me that they're trusting us as their ranchers and their beef providers. So that's probably one of the biggest accomplishments in my mind. We've really been pushing our subscription box. So this is a customized box that's based on a family's preferences where they can get either 12 pounds of beef or 7 pounds of beef directly to their doorstep at the frequency that they choose. So once a month, every 2 months, every 3 months, or every 4 months. And so this has been the only way that customers have been able to pre-order our product. And so we've seen a huge growth in this sector. I think now it's over 85% of growth in those subscribers. So we hope that customers like this process and they really enjoy getting that and they'll stay on, but I do understand that there will be a little bit of a drop off there too. One challenge that I've faced through this whole entire journey is having a steep learning curve. So in college, I studied animal science. So that was a lot of the stuff I've experienced as a 5th generation rancher. I know a lot of the raising the cattle, but after that, it was a whole new learning experience. So for example, we've had cattle butchered, and then we bring back the beef to our farm and enjoy that as a family, but I had never been involved in making those cutting instructions and that process. So to find a butcher that would work with me on that was a huge learning experience, and I'm thinking I'm getting procedures down now, but that was just one example. Met with a lot of different butchers around our area. they had to be USDA inspected for my business. And so there were a few around our area, and I met with different ones. And the one locker I use now, which is Diller Locker Company out of Diller, Nebraska, they were a young couple who were really eager to help me learn and deal with that learning curve, which I'm so thankful for too. They were a huge resource. Marketing and some of these e-commerce, all of these other topics that I really had to grow in my knowledge. That's kind of been a huge overcoming to try to do that. And I am technically the only person who works for Oak Barn Beef. I have a lot of helpers and volunteers, like my parents and my fiance, who are great and help out as much as they can. But to be kind of a one-woman show where I'm doing everything from marketing to customer service, the website building, those butcher instructions, the actual inventory and shipping of the product. That's just a lot. And as we grow, I think it's important for me to put procedures in for that addition of a team. But that has been one challenge, just trying to wear all of those different hats. There are those specific customers who I've learned that are very particular. So as somebody who deals with the whole process there, I've learned that. But our beef subscribers normally are ones who are a little more flexible. So if they do get a cut in their box, they just let me know, hey, this one wasn't my favorite. It was hard to blah, blah, blah with it, or something along those lines. And that's the feedback that I need too, so that I can alter the cutting instructions and improve, but still move that product. It's so much harder when it's from people that are close to you too. That's something I really am working on still, is taking that as constructive criticism when it is my parents telling me that versus a customer. I'm the customer comes first, versus my parents. I'm okay, don't take it personally. They're just trying to help me make this business better. So it's still a journey for me. One thing that I really struggle with is that customer service aspect, and mostly because when you're doing so many different things, and let's say I am in the middle of something and a customer calls, it's hard to switch that mindset back to help them and have those resources on hand when, let's say, I'm in the middle of inventorying in the freezer and somebody calls and I have to step out to get service. I'm standing by the rock right outside of the barn, So it's just kind of those inconvenient aspects that I feel like it's not the actual customer service that's hard, but it's having those resources on hand where if I'm at my desk, it's a lot easier. So that'd be probably the first part I would hire for. That's the biggest one. But I do like just doing different things and having that diverse aspect every day. It really fits my personality and keeps me learning, which is something I love to do. Since I have been in college the past 2 years while starting this business, it was difficult for me to be on the farm and feeding those cattle every day. So my parents have volunteered to do the feeding every day more so. But I do purchase the cattle with Oak Barn Beef. Oak Barn Beef purchases the cattle from Esch Cattle Company, which is our family farm. And then after that point, all of the expenses are Oak Barn Beef expenses. So while they're the ones who are checking them every day and some of that stuff, and I help out as much as I can and go back on the farm and help Dad and do some of his projects too. It's kind of just that family aspect. Following this year, I'm in a little bit of a transition as I graduate in tomorrow. So between moving back to actually my fiance's hometown, we're looking at moving a lot of the animals here as well. So that's something that we'll be able to take over, which my parents have been so helpful, especially while in college. But I do look forward to going out there and feeding every day and checking cattle and kind of taking on more of that responsibility too. And I will add one way that we've considered doing it as well. Sometimes it's hard to keep the cost and separate those to Oak Barn Beef versus Esch Cattle Company. So let's say we all order feed at the same time. So how we've been doing that is splitting it up per head basis. But something we've thought about doing is just buying them as the fat cattle as well. So not making that purchase until they are ready to go to butcher, which might make a little more sense for other people's operations too, or that's another option. Back to the price increases, and that's a question that we've asked ourselves a lot as this was going on. You see a lot of beef companies in the stores raising their prices so much, and hopefully people see this, that we're not raising our prices, and trust us and remember that we are here for them during this hard time. And if we get more customers out of it, then that's worth it for us, rather than just short-term gain, kind of focusing on the long-term gain there. The biggest piece of advice I always give when people are thinking about starting it is just to think in depth about how much extra time this takes as well. So the marketing has been one of my biggest challenges because it is so time consuming, and you have to realize that you have to reach those customers too. So if you feel confident in those or come up with a plan on how to reach those customers, that's going to be a big difference maker for your company. I have been getting a lot of questions from people who have already started direct-to-consumer companies and are ready to grow that, or are looking into it. And I'm actually putting together an online course that just has some downloadable videos. So let's say somebody wants to learn more about the shipping processes. They can download that shipping video and learn how we've experienced those things and gone through them, just as kind of a guide there too. And hopefully that helps people kind of launch into this and get started. Because when I'm getting those questions on like Instagram direct messages, it's so hard to give them my full attention. So I figured if I can point them to these videos, it'll be so much easier and more beneficial to everyone. For one, I recorded like a legal information slide, so everything we've gone through with that side. But if people have already been through that, then hopefully they can just skip that one and download like a shipping one or something. So not the whole course as a download, kind of just like a one video, and then you can pick and choose too. And super casual too. It's kind of just me sitting there talking. So just sharing that experience in a better way than I can reply on Instagram kind of. So a year ago, I probably would have been worried about helping my competition. As we've grown, there's just so many different people who have helped us even know we're their potential competition. And I'm so thankful for that. When I was first looking at starting like a direct-to-consumer company, I actually reached out to one of the largest direct-to-consumer meat companies in the U.S. and asked for an internship. And I moved out to their California ranch for the summer, and they taught me everything they knew. That kind of willingness to help helped us pivot and start so much. And I realized that's not a huge... I'm not their direct competitors. Bigger companies are. We're competing with the grocery stores more so, and the convenience of just grabbing something off a shelf and putting it into the cart. I don't think we're competing against each other necessarily. So that's been a real change in my mind too. And I was going to add to that with COVID-19. I mean, if people are looking into starting direct-to-consumer companies right now, it's because they're losing a lot of money and getting tired of the commodity markets and some things that you can't control. And if we can help more farmers and people, that's something I am really dedicated to. Thanks for having me on. It was a really fun conversation, and I'm looking forward to the live Q&A too.
And that wraps up part 1, which was recorded in early May of 2020. So congrats, Hannah, on your graduation from college. And I hope everyone learned a lot and is maybe putting together some questions and conversation for when we do meet for the live panel discussion June 8th. Stay tuned for part 2, which will feature Jay Wolf of Wolf Farms Produce. And we will see you then.